What's up, everybody? Welcome to SLC Puck! I'm your host, Austin Facer, and you are listening to the Day 1 Utah Hockey Podcast. We're at episode 25 now. Started doing this thingamajig, this old talking into a microphone and looking at a webcam and, tricking you guys into thinking I have some idea what I'm talking about. Before the team was even announced, I think the first episode I did was around April 15th or so. And if you've been following the show from day one, and I know some of you have, and to those of you who are in that group, I say thank you. You guys are the best. You probably recognize this jersey. It was what I wore for episode 1. And it relates to what I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the episode. But for those of you who, want to get a chirp in, say, oh, what did you finally run out of shirts there, Austin? This is your chance. Yes, I did finally run out of shirts. So, yeah, you can get that in now. But a big thanks for you guys. If you're one of those people who needs a new shirt, much like myself, I would like to direct your attention here to the screen at slcpuck.shop. I've got a nice little shirt design here for you. The Mask On tee, I call this. Made this design, showed it off on social media. You guys were like, yeah, I would definitely buy that if you put it on a shirt. And sure enough, some of you have done that, and I really appreciate it. And just as a little bonus treat to all of you, when you order something on slcpuck.shop, I send you a little video message, a little thank you. And that's something that you can treasure through the millennia. When the show makes it to becoming bigger than the Joe Rogan experience, you'll have that little digital keepsake there, me thanking you for giving me, I think this comes out to a profit of $1.54 or something on this t-shirt. So big thanks to you. Go ahead and check that out at slcpuck.shop. I'm on social media at slcpuck on all the platforms. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it. Big thank you for joining the show. And episode 25 here. I think we're getting closer and closer by the day. Isn't that weird how that works? The progression of time advancing forward unceasingly. I think we're like less than 80 days now for the first ever regular season home game for the Utah Hockey Club against the Chicago Blackhawks on April 8th. April 8th. Why did I say that? It's October 8th. I'm sorry. I'm in a fugue state right now. I'm trying to do like 4 things at the same time. You know me. I'm not only talking to the mic, I'm producing the show. I'm getting the screen up. I'm checking my notes. I'm making sure that the video game behind me is playing properly. Notice that's Chicago Phoenix playing right there. That's from NHL 2001. So I'm doing a lot here. Okay, I know the game's on October 8th. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. And I want to talk about the guy who is probably going to be taking the first face-off ever for the Utah Hockey Club, because he was in the media quite a bit this week. And if you've been following the team, following the latest roster updates, transactions, all that, you probably saw a little bit of a buzz around Barrett Hayton. Now, this guy signed a 2-year deal with the team worth $53 million. And if you're new to this roster, you're new to these guys, I'll fill you in a little bit on who Mr. Barrett Hayton is. But he's one of those guys where when I think about the team, the roster of guys who are going to play for the Utah Hockey Club this season, he's someone that I am like really, really, really excited to see. Because I think for a lot of these guys, there's like a newfound energy, there's excitement. I felt bad when the team first arrived here in Utah, and I saw this on social media a lot. I think it's from a lot of like, for lack of a better word, salty Arizona fans. They're like, man, I bet those guys are absolutely miserable that they have to go play and live in Utah now, which, by the way, could not have been further from the truth. And I think that was abundantly evident at the welcome party at the Delta Center. Obviously, I've said this before. If you were there, Liam O'Brien rocked the mic. All the guys really, when they had the opportunity to get on the mic, introduce themselves to a capacity audience at the Delta Center, like exhibited great enthusiasm. And I think that this is going to really energize the team. Being here in Utah, having a much better situation than what they've been dealing with in Arizona for quite a while. But I think about Barrett Hayton. And I look at the story of his career, and I think he's got a little extra zhuzh when it comes to his mentality for the season. I think he's going to be what I like to call a dog, a very hungry dog. And I'll get into his story a little bit, and just to give credit where credit is due. I got a lot of great info from reading about Barrett from a number of media sources, digging into his stats today and over the last few days getting ready for this episode. But stick taps are due to Craig Morgan, who is running the Utah hockey coverage for the All City Networks. Now, if you've been following the Arizona Coyotes for a while, you probably know that he worked for the PHNX. If I'm saying that wrong, let me know. But the Phoenix All City Network, he covered the team for them for quite a while. I think he's been the Arizona Sports Writer of the Year a few times, which means he has a place near and dear to my heart because that guy, my dad, was the Utah Sports Writer of the Year a few times. So this Craig Morgan guy knows what he's talking about, and he's done a great job covering the team in Arizona, and evidently he's going to continue his coverage of the team, I guess, remotely from Arizona. You can cover the team's activity here in Utah, and I think that just goes to show that there's still a lot of great folks down there in Arizona. You're all great folks, but a lot of great people who are really invested in this roster, who want to see these players continue to grow. They were going through a rebuilding phase. They were on their way up, and unfortunately, they're not going to get to see that made manifest into, playoff contention or possibly a Stanley Cup down the line. But anyway, what I'm saying is I'm psyched that we have a guy like Craig Morgan still covering the team from afar because he had some great stuff, particularly on Barrett Hayton this week. But again, just to tell you a little bit about Barrett Hayton, he's 24 years old. He was the 5th overall pick in the 2018 draft, so that's pretty indicative of how highly scouts thought of him. Excuse me, as a junior player. He grew up like 80 miles outside of Toronto in a place called Peterborough, Ontario. Obviously that's like I said it in the last episode, Toronto is essentially the hockey capital of the world. And he was kind of a phenom in the youth scene. He eventually got to be playing in the OHL, which is the Ontario Hockey League, like the top junior hockey league in Canada, for the Sioux Greyhounds. That was his team. He was a point per game guy in that league before he was drafted by Arizona in 2018. And he's had like a really interesting trajectory since then. Obviously, you'd think a guy who is like a phenom from the Toronto area, a top 5 selection in the NHL draft, to be a surefire, I don't know, maybe all-star or like a significant contributor to an NHL team. And that just hasn't been the case for him. And Craig Morgan covered this really well, and he had a number of stories on Hayton. But this Barrett Hayton guy has had some pretty miserable luck to start his NHL career. He's been injured a lot. I think there was a little bit of mismanagement before the Bill Armstrong era when the previous general manager was in, because he was going back and forth between juniors to the NHL, back to the AHL, back to the NHL, back to the AHL again, and then finally has like stuck in the NHL. But again, injuries have really, I think, halted his progress in a lot of ways. The fact that he was maybe called up a little bit too early in his career was probably not best for him. I think they probably could have taken their time a little bit to develop him at the AHL level before bringing him up to the NHL. But health has definitely been his biggest issue, and I think last season was definitely the big example of this. Early in the year, who were they playing? I think they were playing. I have their notes here. They're playing Columbus. Arizona's playing Columbus on November 16th, and Hayton got hit in the hand with a slap shot from Columbus Blue Jacket defenseman Matt Dumba. It broke his hand, but how about this? This will tell you what a tough guy he is. Not only did he stay on the ice and finish his shift, he also scored a goal on that same shift. And then he came off the ice and didn't step back on for another 3 months. But that just tells you what a tough guy he is. And I think there are a lot of guys in the hockey world who would do that, but to do that and score a goal is pretty cool. Unfortunately, he only scored 2 other times the rest of the season because he was just in and out of the lineup a lot with injuries, had another injury after he returned from that injury. So he only had 10 points on the whole season with 3 goals, 7 assists. But then there's a lot of room for improvement. Again, he was a top 5 overall pick. The thing about him is I think from what I can tell, just reading about him and looking at his stats and seeing some highlights from him, he's kind of struggled to find like his scoring touch in the NHL. At the junior level, he was, kind of a guy who played all over the ice, was considered a good shooter, puck handler, could score in a number of ways. In the NHL, his role has kind of changed a lot, and he plays on the same line as Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz, which means he's on the front line. He is the top center. He's starting the game. That's what I mean when I say he's taking the first face-off in Utah Hockey Club history. But, when it comes to his playing style, he's really more of a in front of the net kind of guy. Whether it's getting rebounds, tip-ins, deflections, all that good stuff. That's really how he scored the majority of his goals in the NHL. And to be honest, as I was saying, there is a lot of room for improvement because I found this stat very interesting here. This was one that Craig Morgan pulled. He was just one of 7 guys on the team last year who had at least 2 shots on goal. So 2 really good opportunities at lighting the lamp, but only shot for the entire season a percentage of 4.5%. So less than 5 of every 100 shots of the season went in for him, which put him 23rd on the team, even though he had more shots than all but 6 or 7 other guys on the team, and was ranked 637th in shooting percentage in the NHL. So not very good. Yeah, just 3 goals on the year. And, Craig Morgan's story talks a lot about how he's been working diligently with his coaches. They're trying to get him a lot of live action reps to improve his scoring touch. But more than anything, I think what's going to really help him this season is something that was talked about on the NHL Network. They were reporting on his deal, again, a 2-year contract worth $5.3 million. Experts are calling this, and I'm calling this because I agree with them after digging into this a little bit, a bit of a show-me deal. It's like, okay, well, we know you could play in the NHL. We know you've got potential. That's why you were drafted 5th overall. Show us what you can really do now. Now it's time. Has your hand healed? Well, okay. Well, you're coming to camp healthy. We're in a new place. We're in beautiful, fabulous Salt Lake City, Utah. We've got Crown Burger right down the street. Please don't go in Crown Burger, by the way. We need you guys healthy as possible. But what I'm saying is they're in a new situation. It's kind of time to put up or shut up. And I think what can be really encouraging is the fact that it seems like his team is putting a lot of trust in him, because there are a lot of guys breathing down his neck for his job. But to give him that contract, a 2-year, $5.3 million deal, maybe a little bit of an overpay in that situation, just shows that they think he's got what it takes. And Craig Morgan's story talked again about how much the coaching staff, the management, they respect and love his work ethic, and they want him to be the player he can be. They want him to be a 20-goal season guy. And that really is the threshold for a very effective forward in the NHL. If you can score 20 or more goals, you're considered to be a very effective player and an impactful player in the National Hockey League. They think he can do it. And the reality is, he has to. If he wants to be who he's supposed to be, if he wants to have an impact, he's told Craig Morgan that's what he wants to be. He's got to do it. And I think what makes it fun is not only the excitement that's around the team and their competitiveness that they're going to have against other teams in the National Hockey League, but also the competitiveness within the team itself. Because, as I said, there are other really nice, really young centers who are going to want that spot on his team. Being the top center on a team is a pretty big responsibility. And there are guys like Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunter, who definitely have that potential to be a top line center in the National Hockey League. So the feeling is, Barrett, you got 2 years. Let's see what you can do. And he's a young guy. He's 24 years old. He wants a long-term contract. If I was a 24-year-old in the National Hockey League, I would love to be locked up for quite a few years, especially if I was a former number 5 overall pick. I would want to be. We see contracts all the time go for 8-10 years in the NHL. They're only willing to give him 2, and I think that is indicative of the prove-it mentality that he's going to have to show to really make an impact on the team. Can he do it? Time will tell. We'll start to see in 80 days. And it's an exciting time. Again, hockey culture is dominating the scene here in Utah. I feel like I can't go out like anywhere without seeing like someone in some kind of hockey regalia, whether it's like, another team's logo. I was at Topgolf last night. I saw a group of teenagers. They were all like laced up in like Utah hockey gear, polos, t-shirts, hats. I saw like, again, like 4 teenagers just like obviously psyched on the team. I don't know if they played hockey. I don't know if they did good at Topgolf. They probably didn't do better than me because I hit the hell out of the ball. I felt good about that. But again, it's a lot of excitement. And I've talked to you guys ad nauseum, if you're new hockey fans, about ways to get into the sport, ways to understand the game, ways to appreciate what it is, ways to understand hockey culture, terminology, all that. Some of my suggestions have included watching hockey. Imagine that. If you want to understand hockey better, maybe you should watch it. It's a novel idea. Other suggestions that I've given include playing the video game. You can play an older video game like the one I have behind me, NHL 2001. The rules still hold up. Still the same basic set of rules. That's how you want to learn it. I play NHL 24 all the time too. I love that. I love the Be a Pro mode. The Ultimate Team mode's fun. I love the hockey video game's the best. We'll see how the college football game is when it comes out later this week. But I love sports video games. I always felt like the hockey video games are the best. But maybe the college football game will replace that. Who knows? But again, like if you want to get into hockey, there's a number of ways to do it. But I think one of the best suggestions I can give you is to do it the way that I got into hockey when I was a young lad. And the way that I got into hockey more than anything was through the magic of cinema. And my mom's listening to me record this podcast right now. I can see she has a smile on her face because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. But when I was little, and this is going to make sense why I'm wearing this jersey, what got me into hockey more than anything was the VHS copy of The Mighty Ducks that we had in our home in Centerville. I'm almost positive I wore that VHS copy out because I love that movie. It was my favorite movie. I loved to go to the rink. I think my mom told this story when we did a previous episode about growing up as a hockey family, when we did that episode on Mother's Day. But I loved to go and try to replicate skating the way that Charlie Conway skated. I saw him skate. How Charlie skated was how I wanted to skate. So I wore like the cool like flannel shirt. And I remember like there were scenes in the movie where like Charlie's flannel was like flapping behind him. And I really wanted that to happen to me when I was skating. That was big. I love that movie. I made my mother take me to the rink so I could be Charlie Conway, and that evolved into me playing hockey, and the rest is history. Now here we are, a few years later, enjoying talking about NHL hockey together on SLC Puck. But again, movies are a great way to get into hockey, and there are a number of great hockey movies out there. I posed this question on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I said, hey, what do you guys want me to talk about today? How should I continue my Austin's hockey education series? And someone just sent like a GIF from the Slapshot, the 1977 movie with Paul Newman. And that just got me thinking, like, why don't we just talk about hockey movies? There are some fabulous hockey movies, and Slapshot is got to be near the top of the list. And I'll just go through because, there was a very helpful Wikipedia entry that compiled all the hockey movies together. And I was pretty psyched to see that I had seen a majority of them. I haven't seen a few of them, and there's a couple of them that caught my eye. Apparently there was a hockey movie starring John Wayne, like 1937. I wasn't aware of this. It's called Idol of the Crowds, and the synopsis is that it stars John Wayne as a hockey player who wants to buy a chicken farm. And that just sounds so pleasant. That sounds very, it doesn't ask too much out of you from the audience's perspective. I could buy into that. But yeah, there's been a lot of great hockey movies over the years. That one that I mentioned from John Wayne is one of the first hockey movies ever. But I think when you look at the list of hockey movies, there are a few standouts. Slapshot's probably the first great hockey movie, I would say, and maybe the most iconic, full of so many good lines. Like for me, like I'm trying to do this without swearing because there's a lot of profanity in that movie, and I know this is like a punk rock, like cool, badass show, but I try to refrain from swearing a little bit. But like, I just always the first scene when the Hanson brothers play, and they're just like skating like jackasses and like hitting people over the head with their sticks, spearing guys, foiling up, getting in fights, all that stuff. It makes me laugh. It's like it's really funny the way they're skating. They're like iconic characters in that movie. So many great lines, like when the team manager's like punching holes in the side of the team bus, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Making it look mean." Like that's a great line. I love when Paul Newman goes to pick up the Hanson brothers, and their luggage opens and their like Hot Wheels cars spill out. And then Paul Newman, rushes into the general manager's office. They brought their effing toys with them. It's such Ogie Oglethorpe is an iconic, movie bad guy. The last scene where they win the game because the guy strips and then Oglethorpe punches the ref in the face. That's great. Just so many great scenes from Slapshot. I think that's a movie that I think is always going to be near the top of a lot of people's best hockey movie lists. And I'm going to go in. I'm going to give you guys my top 5 hockey movies in a minute here. But again, just going through, one hockey movie that I haven't seen that I absolutely must see is Youngblood. Has Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze in it. Like, come on, like 2 Adonises from the mid '80s in the same movie about hockey. Like that's a layup. I've got to see that. Let's see more. The Mighty Ducks that came out in 1992. A lot of great things came out in 1992. Most notably, yours truly, Emilio Estevez. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that again. I mispronounce names all the time. Did you know he's Charlie Sheen's brother? By the way, a lot of people didn't know that. Isn't that weird? That Emilio Estevez is Charlie Sheen's brother, and their dad is Martin Sheen. That's weird. That's pretty weird, right? I could talk about that movie forever. I have probably seen it 500 times. Probably 400 of those times coming from between the ages of like 6 and 10. Great movie. I think that's why. I mean that movie like not only inspired like my love of hockey, but my early love of a specific team, the Anaheim Ducks. And I've had a lot of weird connections to Anaheim over the years, but like that has probably been. One of them was just that I love the Mighty Duck, like the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim growing up. I had a lot of Paul Correa stuff, a lot of hats, T-shirts. I still do. I still when I'm bored, I'll go look on eBay for like vintage Mighty Ducks stuff. Great. Like for me, that's like not, let's forget about hockey movies across all genres. The Mighty Ducks is probably the most influential movie in my life, in the history of my life. I could talk. It was a trilogy too, kind of like the Lord of the Rings. Really, that's how monumentous the Mighty Ducks were. Oh, again, the Mighty D2, the Mighty Ducks. That's when they played in the Junior Goodwill Games, essentially the Junior Olympics. They played against Team Iceland. And I think that was really like they tried to make like Rocky IV, but for a kid's hockey movie. Because, Team Iceland was essentially like the Ivan Drago character, right? They were this cold, stoic, Cold War kind of guys. That was where they debuted the Mighty Ducks logo, that became the NHL team. I believe they played the championship game in that movie at the Arrowhead Pond, which is now the Honda Center in Anaheim. And I might be going there later this year. I'll tell you guys about that later. But D2, the Mighty Ducks, great sequel as well. But there's also like some quirky, around the same time, like mid-90s, like you saw a lot more hockey movies and a lot more like movies that just had like a quirky hockey aspect. Sudden Death in 1995 is one of those. I don't know if you remember that movie, but it stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he's like, he plays a fire marshal who like has to, protect an arena full of hockey fans who are there for, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I think that it's in Pittsburgh or something. But, it's the hockey game, bunch of bad guys are holding the whole arena hostage. They've got like a bomb or something, and Jean-Claude Van Damme has to like kick and do the splits a bunch of times to like prevent that from happening. But there's this weird scene where like somehow Van Damme ends up in like full goalie gear and is sitting on the bench. Does this ring a bell at all? And he gets like, he has to get into the game for some reason, and he ends up like saving a penalty shot, even though like the conceit is that he's not an NHL hockey player. He shouldn't be on the ice for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, but I guess he somehow, while fighting all this crime, ends up in goalie gear and ends up making a save on a penalty shot, presumably doing the splits. I don't remember that scene super well. I just remember the ridiculousness of the setup. But anyway, so that's one movie that had a quirky hockey element to it. D3, the Mighty Ducks. That's where the Ducks play in a elite academy up there in Minnesota and have to beat the varsity guys. I'll say this about D3, the Mighty Ducks, and this is something I didn't realize until later in life. It has by far the best hockey action of any of the 3 Mighty Ducks movies, because when you watch the Mighty Ducks movies as like, you know, someone in your 20s or 30s, you realize, holy cow, the hockey action is not very good in the Mighty Ducks 1 and 2. It's really like the players are just kind of standing there. Like no one's really like Adam Banks is kind of skating a little bit, but like no, for the most part, they're just kind of standing like you know, doing knuckle pucks and other ridiculous things. So if you appreciate realism in hockey, you're not going to like the Mighty Ducks 1 or 2. In the third one, it gets quite a bit better. I think they probably had like some stand-ins or some players. Who was the guy who played Charlie Conway? He had kind of an okay career in Hollywood. Josh Jackson. Yeah, Joshua Jackson. Right. I wonder if he learned how to skate for the third one, because it's considerably better in that one. But, you know, still, if hockey realism's your thing, don't watch hockey, or you won't love those aspects of the Mighty Ducks 1 and 2. But still, I love those movies. You know, another movie from that era that kind of had like hockey quirks, Happy Gilmore. You know, I've talked about hockey, Happy Gilmore. I talked about the original 6, the Boston Bruins. You know, I think Happy Gilmore, Boston Bruins jerseys probably sell pretty well, even to this day. I think I see a lot of like knockoff Bruins jerseys with Gilmore on the back online. So that's a good one. Another one that I think a lot of people either haven't seen or, sorry, I'm coughing quite a bit today. Another hockey movie that people may not have seen or don't remember is H-E double hockey sticks, which I think was like a Disney Channel original movie. And I love Disney Channel original movies. They're like a guilty pleasure of mine. I even tried to do like a little podcast about Disney Channel original movies. And maybe if this show goes well, that could be sort of a spin-off, you know, just about Disney Channel original movies, part of the SLC Puck network. But H-E double hockey sticks is great. It's got one of the Lawrence brothers, I think Matthews in that one. Will Friedle, who was in Boy Meets World, plays Satan, or like one of Satan's helpers or something. And Gabrielle Union is also in that one as well. So sort of a little bit of a Utah connection there, you know, because she married Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's a part owner of the Utah Jazz and Real Salt Lake. Whoa, look at that. Isn't that kind of weird? It's like the Kevin Bacon game. It's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You know, how many degrees to Utah is Gabrielle Union? Not very many. Well, there you go. H-E double hockey sticks. Great movie. Anything with the Lawrence brother. I don't know what it is. This is so embarrassing to say and put out on the internet, but I love the Lawrence brothers. I don't know why. Another great hockey movie. Again, go ahead and let me know what your favorite hockey movie is in the comments. This is me just being like a dork, pretty much, and just telling you how I remember these hockey movies. Mystery Alaska is a great one. It's got Hank Azaria, Russell Crowe. The conceit is a little ridiculous again. The idea is like these guys who play hockey out, you know, have a regular weekly outdoor hockey game in their small town in Alaska, invite the New York Rangers to come up and play them, and they take them the distance, and I think they beat the Rangers at the end or something. This would not happen in real life, you know, but it's a movie. It's fun. Russell Crowe's great. I'm a big Hank Azaria fan. That's a good one. Another one that is a little bit of a guilty pleasure and somewhat embarrassing to admit is MVP, Most Valuable Primate, which is about a hockey playing chimpanzee. And I think there was another sequel too. I think Most Vertical Primate, where he continues playing hockey for the Seattle Simians. It's weird the things you remember when you were like when I was like really into this kind of stuff, like as like a 10-year-old. But the movie about the hockey playing chimpanzee stands out. I think maybe we'll have like some sort of I would love to have like some sort of event where we could rent out a theater and maybe get together as an SLC Puck community to watch MVP, Most Valuable Primate. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Continuing down the list here, I'll try. I'm already taking up a lot of your guys' time. I don't really care though. Let's see. Miracle's great. That one, is based on the 1980 Miracle on Ice when the U.S. team beat the juggernaut USSR Russian hockey team in the Olympics. The story around that's awesome. Herb Brooks, played by Kurt Russell. That's great. Mike Eruzione. Obviously, I think a lot of people got excited about that team again. That was 1980 when that all took place. But remember, those guys came back and lit the Olympic flame at Rice-Eccles Stadium for the 2002 Olympics, the whole U.S. hockey team. So there's a cool Utah connection there as well. Kind of gives me goosebumps thinking about that. That was pretty cool. I wonder how many of those guys are still around and if they'll be able to light the torch once again and if we get the Olympics in 2034. And I have a feeling we will. So Miracle, that's a great one. Around that same time, they did a sequel to Slapshot 2. That one was a little far-fetched and out there. If you like a bit of gratuitous nudity, you'll probably like that one. It was a direct-to-DVD movie. What are you going to do? But it did have Stephen Baldwin and Gary Busey in it. And that's not nothing. Those are names, right? Wasn't Alec Baldwin. Wasn't the other Baldwin. Wasn't Billy Baldwin, but it was Stephen. They got one of them, right? And hey, a little bit of Gary Busey goes a long way, if you ask me. If anybody know Gary Busey, tell him I said that. I think you'd probably like that. Hockey movies did kind of slow down a little bit here. I think it picked up here. A movie I like is Goon, starring Sean William Scott. That one's again a little far-fetched. It stars like a bar bouncer guy. No idea how to skate, no idea how to play hockey, but he's good at punching. So, he learns how to play hockey and becomes a very effective minor league hockey enforcer. So, and that's kind of a fun little comedy. There's a sequel to that one too. But apparently there was another one that starred Rob Lowe in 2011. I haven't seen this. It sounds interesting. It's like a Bollywood movie that stars Rob Lowe and is about hockey. So to me, that's what we're seeing. It's called Breakaway. But more great hockey movies. Again, I mentioned Goon has a sequel. That one came out in 2017. From there, I think we've seen a lot of documentaries in the hockey world. The one that sounds interesting that I haven't seen is Saving Sakic, which, according to the synopsis, tells the story of how Harrison Ford kept Joe Sakic in Denver with the Colorado Avalanche. So apparently Indiana Jones was somehow involved with the good run that the Colorado Avalanche had in the early 2000s, and I definitely remember those that era as well. Avalanche, Red Wings, New Jersey Devils. Those guys were big teams when I was coming up, just getting excited about hockey. So anyway, without further ado, this is turning into one of the longer episodes because I've been able to rant about some things. So for those of you who have stayed with us thus far, thank you. I appreciate it. But my top 5 hockey movies of all time, and you guys are already gonna make fun of me because yes, all 3 of the Mighty Ducks movies are in the top 5. But we'll start at 5. At 5, I'm gonna go with Mighty Ducks 2. It's when they play in the Junior Goodwill Games against Team Iceland. The knuckle pucks there. Kenan Thompson's a big part of the game. The Bash brothers are formed. Luis Mendoza has a big role in the game. Dwayne Robertson, I believe is his name, the guy from Texas who could puck handle really good. They introduced a lot of fun characters in the movie, and they beat Team Iceland to become world champions. So it's a great story there. That's number 5. Number 4, Mighty Ducks 3. I put it one spot ahead of 2 because, again, I think the hockey action's a little bit better. A lot less Emilio Estevez, though. I think he's only like in 2 or 3 scenes in that movie. But I think the fact that the hockey action is a little bit more realistic puts it one spot ahead for me. At 3, I'm putting Happy Gilmore in there. just because I really have always loved comedy movies of that era, and I think that's an iconic one. You know, I mean, there's not a ton of hockey. I think Happy is playing hockey the first scene, and he sort of alludes to hockey throughout the movie. You know, he has the putter that's made that looks like a hockey stick. So not like it's more of a golf movie than a hockey movie, but because it's such a like iconic comedy, I'm going to put it at number 3. Number 2, I'm going to put Slapshot there. Slapshot, putting on the foil, great characters. Probably, again, I said probably the first great hockey movie, and I think it's going to withstand the test of time and be one of those really treasured ones. I think it's still pretty funny. Even a movie that's made in the 70s, I think a lot of the jokes still land pretty well. Yeah, we're gonna and I think if you go to like any hockey game, especially I see this all the time when I go to like Grizzlies games, you still see people like wearing Charlestown Chiefs jerseys, you know, like knockoff Chiefs jerseys that say Hanson on the back. For hockey fans, that's like the most iconic movie. So I'm going to put it at number 2. And number 1, you guessed it. The Mighty Ducks, the Triple Deke, the Flying V, Gordon Bombay, Adam Banks, Charlie Conway, Goldberg, the goalie. I forgot what his name. It's the Smash Bros. It's the best hockey movie ever. It's one of the best movies ever. I will stand by that until the day I die. I love the Mighty Ducks. That's my that's my all-time favorite hockey movie. So, again, if you stuck with me this far, appreciate it. I'd love to hear you refute my list. Tell me how dumb it is, or just tell me what your favorite hockey movie is. You know, that's always a fun topic of discussion. We'll get more into talking about the Utah Hockey Club. Get excited for the games as that gets a little bit closer. Other than the Hayton sighting, there wasn't a ton of news to cover, but that's going to change when we get into training camp and actually start playing games. So we'll get into more stuff like that, but we'll continue Austin's hockey education series as we go along, because I know, again, a lot of guys and gals, I should say, out there who are just getting into hockey for the first time and want to know more about it. So we'll be back soon, but thanks for tuning in to episode 25, and we'll talk to you soon.